Hi guys, today I'm going to show you how to factor a quadratic equation, and I'm going to show you with two different methods. The first one being the traditional method that we were taught in school, and then the second is a method discovered by Po-Shen Loh. He's a mathematician, and he found a new and different way to look at it, or to factor quadratic equations. So I'm going to show you an example done both ways, and that just gives you kind of an idea of how that works. So when I talk about factoring this particular equation, I want to end up with something where I have this situation, and it would look something like, you know, x plus 1 times x plus 2. That's what it would look like. That's not the answer, but I want an operation and a number. So I need to fill in this part of the factor. Okay, so traditionally what I would do is I would look for two numbers that sum to the coefficient of x. So that is, in this case, that's going to be minus 14. So the sum of these two numbers that I'm looking for, the one that goes here and the one that goes here, the sum of them is minus 14. And then the product of those two numbers is going to be, in this case, minus 15, this little lonely guy that's over here with no x value with it. So it's kind of by itself. So I'm looking for, as I said, two numbers that have these attributes. So we employ usually what we call a guess and check method. And I like to draw a little table for myself. And I'll put the product over here because we're kind of starting with the product and then we're getting the sum. So you start with the product and you find what are two numbers that multiply to minus 15. And I'm just going to choose minus 5 and 3. But then when I add those two, I get a minus 2, and that is not what I'm looking for. It's not minus 14. So I say, no, we do not like you. We need another value. So I want to now choose some other factors of minus 15. And maybe you've been thinking about it and you saw it, but minus 15 and 1, those are also factors of minus 15, and they do indeed add up to be minus 14. So yes, happy day. I have found the two numbers that I need. So now when I go to factor it, I can just put those in. I plop those right in there, x minus 15 and then x plus 1. And I have done what it asked. It asked me to factor. It didn't actually ask me to find out what x is. But if I need to go ahead and find out the values, then I would set these both to 0. So x minus 15 equals 0. And then I say that means that x equals 15, right? And then x plus 1 equals 0. So x equals minus 1. Just with a little bit of algebraic manipulation there. And then I have found my two solutions for x. Okay, so now we move on to the Po-Shen Loh method. So I'm going to solve this same equation, or the same quadratic equation, and I'm going to use the Po-Shen Loh method. And it might involve thinking a little differently, or maybe even a little more deeply, but I think ultimately it's a more straightforward method. So in this case, we only have to really care that, or mainly we start with the sum, okay? But you use the opposite sign. So since that's a negative 14, I'm gonna call it just 14. You take the opposite, okay? And then the product, we're still gonna use it, but we're gonna deal mainly with the sum. But if you recall, the product is gonna be minus 15, and that stays the same. So just sign changes for this guy when he moves down. Okay, so now we still need to find two numbers that add up to 14, right? So let's say our two numbers are a and b. If we say a plus b equals 14, then we can also say that a plus b over 2 equals 14 over 2 equals 7. So the average of our two numbers, these are the two unknowns, a and b, the two unknowns is 7. And this is just something that, to me, I'm explaining it how it works, but might be intuitive for some other people. I did not think so because I just needed to see it. So if you think about it, these two numbers have the same average of 7, right? And when you average two numbers, that means that their distance from their average is exactly the same. So there's some unknown number u, and the two numbers, a and b, are both going to be a distance of u from their average, in this case 7. So another way of writing those numbers would be 7 plus u and 7 minus u. And once we solve for u, then we can know what those two numbers are. One of them is 7 plus u, the other one is 7 minus u. So this is our a, and this is our b. Okay. So moving on here. We were told, as you recall, that when you multiply those two numbers, you get minus 15. So if I set that up, I put 7 plus u times 7 minus u equals minus 15. I should be able to easily solve and get my value for u. So you may recall a difference of squares that factors out to be where one is positive and one is negative. So you really, when you look at something like this, you just have to square the first two numbers. So 7 times 7, 49. And then you say minus, and then the u times the minus u is going to be u squared. And so if you think about it going from here to here, that might make more sense. This is the difference of squares. When you see two numbers that are squared, you know that it's going to be, you can take their square root, and one is positive and one is negative. So hopefully that makes sense. And if not, look up difference of squares and you'll kind of be able to find some examples where this is the case. So now basically we just need to solve for u. And I'm going to do it step by step so that people that are watching can kind of observe what I've done. So I'm going to negate everything here. I'm just going to, because I want my u squared to be positive. So I want to change the sign. So I'm changing all the signs. So everything that was positive became negative. Everything that was negative became positive. And now my u squared is positive, so that pleases me. And now I've just got to add 49 to both sides. So I'm just going to add 49 over here and get rid of this guy. And I'm going to end up with 64. And that's good because that's a nice number to take the square root of. So u is 8. Okay, so now if you recall, remember we had 7 plus u times 7 minus u. So here is our a and here is our b. So now we know that a is 7 plus u, which is 7 plus 8 equals 15. And then b is 7 minus u, which is 7 minus 8, minus 1. And you'll see we got the exact same numbers that we did using the other method. So if I were to write this in the factored form, it would be like this. Because these are the actual solutions. This is not the factored form. They're actually solutions. X equals 15 and then x equals minus 1. So if I put them back into the factored form, I have to switch the signs. Hopefully that makes sense for you. So this was two different methods of solving a quadratic. I hope this was helpful and gave you an idea of a couple different options. Thank you so much for listening.